The soft glow of the evening sun poured through the windows of Bella Vista, one of the city's finest dining spots, as 35-year-old Jonathan Hayes sat alone at his usual table in the corner. As the CEO of Hayes Industries, Jonathan made it a point to dine here every Tuesday night, consistently ordering the same elaborate meal, and always in solitude, surrounded by the low hum of conversations from couples and families. Relationships he quietly envied but had never fully been a part of. He had built his empire through smarts, hard work, and an almost obsessive focus on his career, leaving little space for personal connections. His penthouse, filled with priceless art and lavish furniture, lacked the warmth and laughter that came with sharing life with loved ones. Tonight, as on many nights, he absent-mindedly picked at his gourmet meal while scrolling through business reports on his phone, trying to fill the silence with work. He was preparing to leave when faint voices near his table caught his attention, so soft he almost missed them amidst the restaurant's background noise. "Excuse me, sir," the voices whispered, polite but barely audible, pulling Jonathan's gaze away from his phone. Standing beside him were two young girls who appeared to be identical, possibly 4 years old. They wore matching white dresses with delicate lace trim, now showing signs of careful mending after repeated washings. Their blonde hair was neatly braided, and despite their clear circumstances, they carried themselves with a dignity that struck Jonathan right away. "Could we please have your leftovers?" one of the girls asked, her voice soft but carrying an air of formality that suggested she had been raised to always mind her manners, even when times were tough. Jonathan froze, his world momentarily stopping as he looked into their eyes. There was no sense of entitlement or desperation there. Instead, he saw courage, vulnerability, and a quiet determination that pierced through all the emotional walls he had built around his heart. These children were hungry, but they were asking with respect, not begging. They were dealing with a hardship that could overwhelm any adult, but they faced it together, supported by the unspoken bond that only twins could share. "Of course," Jonathan said softly, his voice faltering as he gestured to the nearly untouched plates on the table. "Please sit down. There's plenty." The twins exchanged a quick glance, surprised that they had been invited to join rather than simply being told yes or no. "We don't want to disturb you, sir," the second girl said. "We just thought you might be done with your meal." Jonathan looked at the two of them, trying so hard to maintain their pride as they addressed a basic need. And something inside him shifted profoundly. "You're not bothering me at all," Jonathan replied, standing and pulling out chairs for both girls. "I'm Jonathan. What are your names?" "I'm Emma, and this is my sister Ella," the first girl said as they carefully climbed into their chairs. "We're twins and we're 4 years old. We always stay together," Ella added, as though that was the most important thing to know about them. As the girls began to eat, savoring every bite with the careful appreciation of children who understand the value of food, Jonathan found himself gently probing about their situation. He learned that their mother was standing outside, too proud to come in but desperate enough to allow her daughters to ask for help. "Mommy says we should always be polite and never take more than we need," Emma explained, chewing slowly. "She works really hard, but sometimes there's not enough money for food after we pay for our room," Ella added matter-of-factly. Jonathan felt his heart break as he realized the full picture. This was not a family seeking charity, but a mother and her children struggling through temporary hardship while holding tightly to their values and dignity. "Would you like me to meet your mother?" Jonathan asked carefully. "I'd like to talk to her, if that's okay." Emma and Ella exchanged a glance, their twin bond clearly communicating something unspoken. Jonathan stepped outside the restaurant and encountered Sarah Mitchell, a woman in her late 20s. Despite her beauty, the exhaustion and worry she carried were evident. For months, she had been struggling to provide for her daughters, juggling 2 part-time cleaning jobs. With unpredictable hours and low pay, it was a constant challenge to cover rent and groceries. "I'm really sorry if my daughters bothered you," Sarah said, her cheeks turning red with embarrassment. "I told them they could politely ask for leftovers, but I never meant for them to interrupt your meal." Jonathan looked at her with respect. This woman, raising 2 remarkable children under such tough circumstances, earned his admiration in a way he seldom felt in his world of business deals and corporate negotiations. "Sarah, your daughters didn't bother me at all. They impressed me," Jonathan replied earnestly. In my line of work, I meet many people, but I rarely come across the kind of dignity and character that Emma and Ella showed tonight. Over the next hour, as the girls shared Jonathan's meal, he learned about Sarah's life. 2 years ago, her husband had died in a construction accident, leaving her with mounting medical bills and no life insurance. She was slowly digging herself out of debt, but a recent illness that kept her from working had put her even further behind. I've never asked anyone for help before tonight, Sarah admitted. But watching my daughters go to bed hungry was just too much for me. Jonathan found himself making an offer that even he didn't expect. Sarah, I have an idea that could be mutually beneficial. He explained that his large home had a separate guest cottage that was sitting empty. He had been looking for someone reliable to help manage his household, and the position would include housing, a good salary, and flexible hours that would allow Sarah to be there for her daughters. I don't want charity, Sarah responded immediately, her pride clear in her voice. This wouldn't be charity, Jonathan reassured her. I genuinely need someone I can trust to manage my home while I'm away for business. You'd be doing me a real service. 6 months later, the guest cottage had become a warm, welcoming home for Sarah and the twins, providing them with a stability and happiness they hadn't experienced since before their father's death. Sarah had proven invaluable, not just as a household manager, but as someone who brought warmth and life into Jonathan's previously sterile world. Emma and Ella had become the daughters Jonathan never knew he wanted. They filled his evenings with laughter, his weekends with adventure, and his heart with a kind of love he had never imagined possible. They showed him that real wealth isn't measured in dollars or possessions, but in the richness of relationships and the joy of caring for others. Sarah came to understand that her daughter's bravery in asking for help that night had not only provided immediate relief, but also led to a partnership with a man who needed the security and support that she too had been seeking. One evening, Jonathan sat in his garden, watching Emma and Ella chase fireflies while Sarah tended to the flowers they had planted together. Jonathan, Sarah said, joining him on the garden bench. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for us. Jonathan smiled as he watched the twins capturing fireflies in mason jars with holes in the lids. Sarah, you have it wrong. It was those 2 brave little girls who gave me something that night that I had been missing my entire adult life. What was that? Sarah asked. They gave me a family, Jonathan replied. When I looked into their eyes and saw their courage, their love for each other, and their determination to face hardship with dignity, I realized that all the things I thought I wanted from life were nothing compared to what they were offering. 2 years later, Jonathan and Sarah were married in the same garden where they had spent so many evenings watching Emma and Ella grow. The twins served as flower girls, walking down the aisle with the same grace they had shown that first night in the restaurant. During his wedding speech, Jonathan shared the story of how 2 little girls asking for leftovers had brought him the greatest feast of his life. Emma and Ella taught me that the most important question isn't what I can get, but what I can give, Jonathan said, looking at his new family with eyes full of love and purpose. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Sometimes those who ask for the least deserve the most. And sometimes, when you think you're helping someone else, you realize they're actually the ones saving you. As the celebration continued around them, Jonathan reflected on how a simple request for leftovers had led to the most fulfilling meal of his life. A daily feast of love, laughter, and belonging that no amount of money could have ever bought. The eyes that had once broken his heart now healed it, teaching him that true wealth comes not from what we accumulate, but from what we give, and that the most successful life is one spent in service to the people we love.